Your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit brings you the unfolding corn crisis shaking global trade. Once the undisputed export king, U.S. corn now faces pressure from record harvest forecasts, tumbling futures, and mounting costs that leave farmers squeezed. Mexico's resistance to genetically modified corn sparked a USMCA clash that Washington technically won, but doubts linger. Meanwhile, Canada seized the opening, leveraging traceability and low-carbon certifications to lure premium Asian buyers. The stage is set for a closer look at how America's automatic advantage in grain exports has shifted into a market under real pressure. From automatic leader to under pressure, how the market turned. For decades, U.S. corn exports thrived on sheer volume and unmatched logistics. That edge is less certain today. By late summer 2025, traders faded a brief rally as profit-taking and record harvest forecasts weighed on prices. Reuters noted futures slipping from 6-week highs despite relatively strong crop ratings, with analysts still tossing around record yield speculation as harvest approached. The challenge is margins. Farmers' break-even costs have climbed. Fuel, labor, fertilizer, and credit are far higher than in the mid-2010s. Softer futures don't guarantee disaster, but they erode the cushion when basis weakens or export demand stalls. And demand has been uneven. USDA reports show sales bouncing between strong and soft, with Mexico, Japan, Colombia, and the Philippines rotating in, yet no single buyer consistently propping up the market. Global supply piles on. Germany projects a sharp jump in 2025 grain output, while Black Sea exports remain strong. With more bushels in play and buyers cautious, U.S. corn faces tougher pricing lanes, and compliance, not just price, now breaks the tie. And that's where Mexico, America's biggest corn customer, steps into the spotlight. Mexico's GM standoff, a ruling that didn't settle the score. Mexico is the United States' largest corn customer, which makes regulatory disputes critical. In December 2024, a USMCA panel sided with Washington, ruling that Mexico's restrictions on biotech corn for human consumption lacked scientific backing. U.S. officials hailed the verdict, and Mexico faced a compliance clock. On paper, a major win. Reality proved more complex. Mexico pledged to honor the ruling but continues to stress protection of native maize and a preference for non-GM corn in staple foods. Commercial ties remain strong. Billions of dollars in shipments confirm that. But sticky doesn't mean static. Policy headlines can spook processors, and feed buyers hedge by sourcing elsewhere. For U.S. farmers, nuance matters. The legal framework for biotech access stands, yet cultural heritage, health narratives, and politics shape demand. Premiums persist for identity-preserved or traceable lots, with buyers demanding chain-of-custody records and residue testing. Exporters who adapt, tight paperwork, clear disclosures, secure steady business. But Mexico isn't the only one moving the goalposts. Globally, buyers are shifting to contracts that reward sustainability, and Canada saw the opening first. Before we go deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. It helps us bring more insights to enthusiasts like you, and you won't miss the next breakdown from Piston Pundit. Chasing the green premium. Why traceability beats bargain prices. Corn used to be ranked by origin, price, and freight. Now the deciding factor is, can you prove it? Buyers demand evidence of land use compliance, emissions intensity, and supply chain integrity. The EU's sustainability push, deforestation rules, and climate targets has forced commodity firms to integrate geolocation, satellite checks, and audit trails. Shipments lacking traceability risk delays, fees, or outright rejection. Canada spotted the opening. Producer groups piloted blockchain-style traceability for organic and identity-preserved grains, recording cultivation practices and movements from seed to sale. These systems don't create demand outright, but they cut customs friction and help buyers meet ESG requirements. For feed mills in Asia or processors in Europe, smoother paperwork and faster clearance justify paying more. The U.S. can match these expectations. Some exporters already run identity-preserved programs. but scaling across a system built for speed and volume is difficult. Until standards and registries align, many buyers prefer Canada's plug-and-play compliance. That green premium may not show on futures charts, but it dictates who wins the most valuable contracts. Still, even the smoothest compliance system can be derailed by one thing: trade policy. Trade policy crosswinds, tariffs, freight, and the new price of risk. Trade policy can flip the math overnight. In early 2025, new U.S. tariffs and the threat of retaliation from key partners jolted exporters. Reuters warned that sweeping tariff volleys could squeeze the $190 billion U.S. farm export sector, corn included, by raising input costs, weakening demand, or inviting tit-for-tat measures targeting agriculture. The details shift week by week, but the message is clear. When tariffs rise, buyers diversify origins and shorten contracts. Freight volatility adds another layer. Even without formal barriers, costs creep up through vessel shortages, higher insurance, or rerouted shipping. In that climate, sellers who pair grain with clean paperwork and predictable customs clearance often beat cheaper offers that come with risk. That's why identity-preserved and traceable cargoes keep gaining traction. They lower downstream risk, from demurrage fees to inspection delays. The old formula, board plus basis plus freight, still drives trade, but now compliance risk is a line item. Exporters who diversify destinations and preload compliance data keep business steady, even when tariff headlines hit. So where does U.S. corn actually go, and how are the next contracts truly won? Let's map it out. Where the corn goes, and how to win the next contract. The map of U.S. corn buyers looks familiar. Mexico still leads, followed by Japan, Colombia, South Korea, Canada, Taiwan, and rotating players like the Philippines and Morocco. But today's contracts hinge less on price and freight, and more on paperwork. Importers now demand trait declarations for biotech events, residue and mycotoxin panels tailored to local laws, and identity-preserved documentation proving chain of custody from field to elevator. Europe and parts of Asia often add sustainability attestations, no deforestation guarantees, emissions data, or water stewardship notes. Market timing still plays a role. Futures dips trigger opportunistic tenders, while strong European outlooks embolden stricter terms. But the tiebreakers remain consistent. U.S. exporters who deliver clean paperwork quickly take the business. The playbook is straightforward. Expand non-GMO and identity-preserved lanes where premiums make sense, digitize data with certificates buyers already use, and treat compliance speed as a competitive weapon. Diversifying both markets and shipping corridors further hedges risk. In short, the next contract is secured on paper long before the corn ships. Which brings us to the verdict. Success today is no longer about price, it's about proof. Verdict: proof, not just price. The U.S. hasn't lost its grip on corn exports. Mexico still buys heavily, and Asia remains a steady customer. But the rules of the game have shifted. Back in 2010, success came from volume and freight. In 2025, the deciding factor is documentation, proof of quality, sustainability, and compliance that can withstand every inspection. Canada caught on early, bundling traceability and carbon credentials into a green premium that buyers are willing to pay. The U.S. can compete, even surpass that standard, but only if exporters expand identity-preserved programs and digitize compliance from farm to port. The future of North American corn will be won not just in the fields, but in data rooms, customs checks, and audit trails. For American shippers, the choice is simple: master the paperwork and keep the business, or fall behind as premium cargoes shift elsewhere. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Do you think U.S. exporters can catch up with Canada's traceability edge, or is the green premium theirs to keep? Should trade disputes like Mexico's GM corn fight push American farmers to diversify faster, or double down on legal wins? And when it comes to global markets, what matters more to you? Price, paperwork, or policy stability? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective fuels these discussions. For the latest updates on the automotive world and more in-depth analysis, subscribe to Piston Pundit and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.